mushroom cups.
He did what in his cup?
Back when I asked you guys for suggestions on things to potentially rank, someone suggested Mario Kart course rankings for the mainline games. A fair and perfectly reasonable suggestion, but here's the thing. More often than not, I like to rank things that nobody else has. Nobody has ranked every Vanguard movie except me. Nobody has ranked every NSMB-DS level except me. So if I'm going to talk about Mario Kart, I want to do something that nobody else has. And ranking the tracks of each game is way too obvious. Hundreds of YouTubers have already done that. But a ranking I haven't seen anyone do is this. Every Mushroom Cup track in Mario Kart history ranked. Seems like a no-brainer for a ranking, but when you actually play through the games, you realize that this is a very stupid idea. Oh boy, I wonder how Mario Circuit 1 will compare to DK Space Force. So that's probably why nobody else on YouTube has done this. This is the first cup in each Mario Kart game, and typically the easiest and most basic, offering simple tracks while you get used to the feel of the game. They obviously aren't going to blow their load by putting the craziest courses at the start, so most of these tend to be pretty forgettable. Which is why I think it's interesting to arrange which ones are the most forgettable and pick out a few standouts from across the series. And then at the end, we can rank the cups overall and see which one comes out on top as having the best selection. So fuck it, I played through every Mushroom Cup in the Mario Kart series, and then I did it again, and again, and again. It was tough settling on a final ranking given how close in quality and theme a lot of these are, but I managed to do it. All 37 Mushroom Cup tracks from across the entire series. Okay, technically speaking, there are 40, but I am not buying Mario Kart Live Home Circuit. And also, I'm ranking the versions of these tracks that are in their respective game's Mushroom Cup. If a course was remade in a later game and made better or worse, that remake doesn't matter because we only care about the original. So here it is, my ranking of every Mushroom Cup track in Mario Kart history.
Mamma mia!
So the worst Mushroom Cup track of all time. What game could it possibly be from this one? Super Mario Kart and its controls have grown on me a bit since I first played it, but even I can't defend some of its jankier aspects. With a lot of tracks in this game, it feels like the controls and drifting are working against you. And in terms of the Mushroom Cup, nowhere is this more evident than with Donut Plains 1. Not only is the theme boring and the course devoid of obstacles, but the turns on this map feel horrible. You're constantly swerving left and right, which in this game is not fun at all since you're always at risk of spinning out. The layout is windy, but not windy enough to be interesting, yet still too windy for this game's fucking controls. This is the only course on the list that actively annoys me, rather than just bores me, so into the bottom spot you go. And the worst part about all of this is the most playable Donut Plains track in this game.
Is that all you got?
Figure 8 Circuit. It's a figure 8 and it's a circuit. This is the single most basic track in Mario Kart history. Even the SNES courses from 13 years prior had more to offer than this does. No obstacles, no interesting turns, no anything really. At least the lack of turns means you can never really go off-road, and it's not like it's annoying to play like Donut Plains 1 is. It's just nothing. What do you want me to say about this? I could be using this YouTube platform to talk about literally anything else. Why do you need to hear me talk about fucking figure 8 circuit? Go watch Pets on a Train or something, I don't fucking know.
Hey Luigi, it's time for you to type.
At least from what I've played, my least favorite game in the Mario Kart series is Mario Kart 64. I just do not like the way this game looks, feels, or plays. Maybe it'll grow on me in time like Super did, but for now, this is the only game that I wouldn't say I enjoy on some level with how little it offers me. And that applies to the Mushroom Cup as well. N64 Luigi Raceway is very bland and basic, which I guess is to be expected for the first course in the game, but it shouldn't bore me to tears. Half the course is just a straight line, and even when you do turn, the controls of that don't exactly make it fun. The hot air balloon and Jumbotron are cute, but those are literally the only things this course has going on to elevate it above figure 8 circuit. It's not unplayable, but it's a course that I never want to go back to in a game that isn't much better in my opinion.
Oh, Yoshi's here! Yay!
Has anybody ever noticed how Yoshi Falls is the same shape as Luigi Circuit Wii, just upside down? Unfortunately though, this track does not have the same amount of charm that Luigi Circuit Wii does, not even close. The theme isn't exciting at all, and there's barely anything noteworthy about this track that makes it more interesting than fucking Figure 8 Circuit. I guess the waterfalls are cool and the giant egg in the center is cute, but otherwise it's a giant heaping pile of nothing.
That is one big pile of nothing.
Give me the water.
Most of the time, I can forgive early game courses for having basic themes and layouts, especially for most of the earlier games in the series. But I don't have much of that same sympathy for Water Park. For a Mario Kart 8 track, even an early one, this is bafflingly dull and forgettable. The layout is really lame with not that many satisfying turns, the anti-gravity and underwater segments don't feel like they add anything to the course. Not even the music is all too noteworthy here. And it stings all the more considering a Mario Kart course based on a water park sounds really awesome until you actually play it and realize that this is all you get. It's just so unspecial, and maybe it wouldn't stick out for being this bland if it was in Mario Kart 64 or something. But for a game that now has 96 courses, dozens of which are more interesting, I have no desire to ever play this one specifically. Moo Moo Farm is marginally more enjoyable than some of the other N64 tracks, though it is obviously very basic and not really all that exciting. The layout is as simple as can be, and there's no obstacles outside of moles that appear occasionally. There are cows in the background, which I like because they look funny, but not on the track anywhere. I thought maybe this was because the N64 couldn't handle a track hazard as complex as a cow, but I mean, they managed to get a fucking train on one of these courses, so what gives? If I really wanted to race on an oval, I would just go play Sky High Sunday because at least that has bright colors and isn't just brown. This one isn't atrocious or anything, and it feels fine for 64's controls, but there's no real reason to go back to it when Moo Moo Meadows is right there.
Boo! I'm a ghost!
I can appreciate Ghost Valley 1 for being wider than some of the other SNES tracks, making it so you aren't bumping into walls the whole time. And even if you do, the barriers fall down, which is a neat detail that they even kept in the Wii remake of Ghost Valley 2. It's just too bad that in this game you can barely see the track borders, so you won't notice that detail, but oh well. Aside from that, however, it's really nothing special, with turns that are manageable, but nothing crazy. The atmosphere is really basic with there barely being a background, and the music sounds like bike wheels that need to be oiled. Not awful to play on or anything, but very forgettable in the grand scheme of Mario Kart tracks.
It all starts with this.
Ah, the one that started it all. I'll never forget the first time I played this course, since I had just gotten my Switch and didn't want to pay $85 for 8 Deluxe just yet. So I was stuck with this shit. Oh joy. To be fair though, as the first Mario Kart course in history, Mario Circuit 1 does get the job done. The shortcut section is fun, and the turns aren't too sharp, making for a solid introduction to this game's not great controls. I could have some fun on this one compared to other, more complicated and annoying SNES tracks, but it'd feel wrong to rank it any higher than this.
We're midway through what may turn out to be an historic day for racing.
Mario Kart Stadium is a fine enough course to start the game on, and it does a pretty decent job of introducing you to anti-gravity with that one section. But otherwise, nothing about it sticks out to me in terms of its layout or theme. And for a game as great as this one, I guess I want a little bit more to chew on. The stadium atmosphere is cool and all, but nothing really sparks the imagination, you know? And I don't really find any of the turns on the ground all too satisfying. It is still possible to have fun on this course, even more so than some of the other courses I have ranked higher, but that's just because Mario Kart 8 is inherently a fun game. As a course on its own merits, it's just not very noteworthy in the grand scheme of Mario Kart, and for a game this late in the series, that is a bit disappointing. On the flip side, Sweet Sweet Canyon does have an actual theme and a slightly more interesting layout, but it still feels like it's missing something in terms of actual gameplay. Most of the mild enjoyment I get out of this course comes from the music, and to a lesser extent, the aesthetic. I am a sucker for sweet-themed worlds, even if the colors on most of this course aren't the most enticing and look a bit washed out. But in terms of how it feels to play on, I don't really get any serotonin driving on the split pass or through the lake of piss. It just overall feels like the bare minimum you could have done for a candy-themed course, at least compared to something like the world version of Sky High Sunday. It's perfectly fine for a starter course, but one that I'm never too thrilled to play on. Man, Mario Kart 8's Mushroom Cup courses are not faring well on this list. Hopefully this game will have something more interesting up its sleeve later down the line.
Princess Peaches, 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 Peaches.
Before making this video, I had never actually played Mario Mario Kart Super Circuit. And after trying it out, I was shocked at how much I enjoyed myself. It's obviously not much today, and it's not going to give Mario Kart 8 or World a run for their money, but I find this game really charming, from the graphics to the tracks to the gameplay that feels miles better than it did in Super. This is easily my favorite of the first 3 Mario Karts, and I can see myself coming back to it fairly often. But with all that said, Peach Circuit is kinda meh. A fine enough first course that does a good job at acquainting you with the controls of the game, and it has some satisfying turns, but that's really all it has. It's just a road with no obstacles, and given the standard for courses in this game compared to Super, it feels pretty lacking. Not awful, but easily one of the least noteworthy GBA tracks.
No one touches President Koopa.
Weirdly enough, given how jank Super Mario Kart's controls are, I find 90-degree turns more manageable and satisfying than this bendy shit, at least on lower CCs. So Bowser Castle 1 is a more fun track than some of the other ones to me. Yeah, it is just a fucking square, and the thwomps are easy to avoid, so the course is stupid easy, but nailing those turns without bumping into a wall gives me an odd satisfaction. Plus, speeding up in this one area and hopping over the lava is kinda fun. It's more of a guilty pleasure than a legitimately well-designed course, but I guess I'll take what I can get. Smoke weed. I did not care for Calamari Desert. Like, it's okay, it's fine, I don't hate it. I like the train, and it makes this course moderately less boring than the Luigi Raceway and Moo Moo Farm. But nothing else about this one sticks out to me. The layout is as barren as can be outside of the train crossings, and I like the color orange, but not enough for that to be all I'm looking at for 2 straight minutes, you know? The layout is just a slightly bent up oval, so while the turns are manageable, there's nothing all that exciting here. It really comes down to preference with these older courses, and as I've made clear, I do not like the way this game plays. So if someone else does, I could totally see how they would love this course. But for me, it's a forgettable track that really took some modern enhancements before it became actually fun.
So, we have a cactus-sucking frog and his grammar police monkey.
Yes, I do have Dry Desert ranked higher than Calamari Desert. The Mario Kart community is gonna have me hanged, aren't they? Don't get your pokey in a twist. This course still isn't great. The theme is about as boring as it gets, and the layout isn't crazy either. But it does have more going on than Calamari, and while that doesn't make a course inherently better, Double Dash is also 10 times more fun to control than 64, so there's that. The slippery controls mesh with the layout pretty seamlessly, and the turns can be kinda fun. The tornado and sand pit make for decent hazards, and I also like the eyes they put on the trees and rocks in the background. It has some charm as a desert course, even if it is still ultimately kinda unspecial and the weakest GameCube track on the list. But at least we can all agree it's better than the Mario Kart 8 version.
Your train driving skills are out of this world. Are you a dense attacker?
Out of all the games in the series, the Mario Kart World tracks were the hardest for me to place on this list. On a technical level, these are obviously the best and most impressive Mushroom Cup courses the series has seen to date, but I just don't know if I get quite as much out of them as I do with some of the older, simpler tracks. And the weakest in this game selection is Whistletop Summit.
Actually, it's Whistle Stop Summit.
Not a bad course or anything, but by the standards of this game, it feels kinda lacking. Most of the course you can just grind on the train tracks, which is fun at first, but loses its charm after a bit. And if you choose not to do that, the layout here isn't much more interesting than many of the basic circuit tracks on this list. And for Mario Kart World, I feel like you need a bit more than that. Aside from the fantastic music, nothing about this one sticks out to make it a super memorable track.
That's so nice.
Somebody once told me the world is gonna roll me.
Toad Circuit is a pretty solid starter course for what it is. Admittedly, it feels a bit wrong to rank it this high. I mean, compared to Mario Kart Stadium, this is an introduction to a less exciting game, and it doesn't have much more going on than that one. Hell, some might even argue it has less going on. But based on how much fun I actually have on the track, and how enjoyable the atmosphere is, Toad Circuit does get the edge. Holding drifts on the long turns is really satisfying, and there's great shortcut opportunities towards the end, plus a glider ramp that I never take because it's slower. It doesn't quite capture the same charm as a course like Luigi Circuit Wii, and isn't the craziest thing out there, but it's a decently enjoyable ride.
What if we went underwater?
I was honestly surprised at how much I kinda liked Cheep Lagoon. I had heard everyone say that this course was lame, and yeah, it kinda is. The layout and atmosphere aren't too special, and certainly can't compare to Cheep Beach. But while the on-land portions towards the start and end are pretty whatever, I do enjoy the underwater and cave sections. There are lots of good trick opportunities, and I love taking the narrow glider path in the cave. Plus, this course has a certain novelty to it, considering it was the first one in the series with underwater driving, technically. Not an amazing course, but slightly better than people give it credit for.
Alan, are you a cow? What?
No.
I've gotten used to Moo Moo Meadows through its Mario Kart 8 version, so I was not prepared to go back to the original and have my cornea burned. Why is it so fucking bright? Jesus. The Wii version definitely isn't a looker. I think the Morning Sunshine color palette suited this course a lot better and made it stick out more. Whereas this original doesn't feel too different from any old circuit track. Is it fun outside of that? Yeah, sure. The layout is simple, but definitely effective, and it's leagues more interesting than Moo Moo Farm. The cows are very epic. I like performing tricks off the ramps. It may lack a bit of the extra pizzazz that was in the 8 version and isn't exactly a standout among Wii courses either, but it does do its job and it's hard to hate, even if it's also hard to call it one of the best Mushroom Cup courses out there.
You're in Radiator Springs.
Mario Kart World is a game with a lot of shit going on, at least in terms of racing mechanics and track design. The open world, not so much. So I gotta commend Mario Bros. Circuit for being a pretty nifty showcase of what this game has to offer, while also having a neat Radiator Springs vibe. I find that I get more satisfaction grinding on these rails than I do the tracks in Whistletop Summit. And even if you stick to the main path, the layout is a bit more diverse with more satisfying turns. Plus the alternate path towards the end is fun, even if it takes no effort to get to. This is a solid introduction to the game, even if it doesn't showcase the new tech quite as well as a course we'll be talking about later.
Every day I'm shopping on it.
Koopa Troopa Beach is my favorite offering from 64's Mushroom Cup. Even if I do find the aesthetic of this game to be more boring than charming usually, I will admit, the beach atmosphere here is pretty nice. It has some fun, summery music in colors that are less ugly than some of the other courses, and the gameplay isn't actually half bad either. Given how this game controls, it's fun to maneuver your way around the rocks and onto the ramps. Plus, it's satisfying to try and cut corners through the water. There's a neat shortcut, crabs and trees to dodge, and turns that are slight, but satisfying. It feels like it's making the most out of the janky controls, rather than just trying to hide them behind a boring, barren layout, which I appreciate. Nothing too crazy, but by the standards of this game, it's a really fun time.
Cannonball!
I remember playing Mario Kart Wii at my cousin's house a few years back, and thinking to myself, man, GBA's Shy Guy Beach kinda sucks. But thankfully, it's a lot more enjoyable in its original iteration, mainly because flat tracks are the standard in this game, unlike in Wii, and the pixel art on display is really pretty. I love how vibrant the colors are, and the Shy Guy pirates in the background are a cool detail. The course also has lovely music, one of my favorite songs in the whole game. In terms of the track itself, the layout is pretty solid for the GBA, and I like the crabs as obstacles. But hopping over the water doesn't feel all too satisfying like it did for the lava in Bowser Castle. And I also don't like this weird turn around the grass patches at the end. It feels kinda awkward. Otherwise though, I really enjoy this one thanks to the atmosphere, music, and a generally fun layout. It's just too bad that we took a giant dump on all of that. Luigi's Mansion is a very solid and cool course, elevated by some pretty neat fan service. Though, it isn't quite a personal favorite for me like it seems to be for a lot of other people. The first half is great, the turns in the mansion are super satisfying, and I like all the background details. But unfortunately, that section is rather short, and the second half takes you outside the mansion. Here you drive through mud that is colored like blood for some reason. It's not actively unfun, just a bit underwhelming. I feel like it's missing something, like maybe boost pads like that one section in Mario Stadium. The music is great at least, and the entire track has a fittingly spoopy atmosphere, which helps it stand out among a lot of other Mushroom Cup tracks. And even if the second half of the track is generally weaker than the first, I do like some of the obstacles here, like the walking trees. It's a good course that I do enjoy, even if the theme is doing a lot of the heavy lifting.
Luigi!
I feel like Luigi Circuit Wii is oddly one of the most iconic Mushroom Cup tracks there is. Something about this course has a nostalgic charm, and I didn't even have a Wii or this game as a kid. Yet something about this course in particular feels oddly whimsical, and there's a ton of charming little attributes despite the simple layout of the course. The Mii's on the sidelines, the Luigi statue, the ramp towards the end. It does what I think any starting track should do, and generally puts you in the mood for some Mario Kart. Plus, the last turn with the boost pads is especially fun. This course is nothing that crazy overall, but I find it hard to dislike because of its immaculate vibes.
It's Luigi, PG, Digi.
My thoughts on Luigi Circuit from Double Dash ironically mirror my thoughts on Luigi Circuit from Wii. Though I do feel like I have to give this one the slight edge since it has 2 turns with boost pads rather than just 1. Otherwise, it's a pretty solid beginner track, though I do feel like some people kinda overhype it. The layout is basically just a shriveled up oval, and at least from what I played, you don't really get to interact with racers going the opposite direction for too long. But viewing it as just a simple little track to get used to the controls, it gets the job done, and it's a good time. I like Crown City quite a bit, even if you can definitely tell this was a location more designed for open worlds play rather than an actual race course. Don't get me wrong, this place does still make for a really strong track, especially with how varied it feels and how they get a lot of the basic theme of city. I like the narrow alleyways towards the start with graffiti on them, especially with how hectic 24-player races can be in this game. Then you get to go into this nifty skate park and then you drive in a straight line for a while. Yeah, this is where you can really tell this wasn't initially designed as a standard track, with how the straightaway doesn't have a ton going on. Though the portion afterwards where you drive on solar panels is pretty cool, and the highlight of the track for me, though that also means lap 3 isn't too terribly exciting either. Still though, this is definitely an enjoyable track for the vibes of the bustling city, and all the cool gameplay opportunities it opens up. It's a good time, though it definitely could have been better if the open world wasn't holding it back, much like this game as a whole.
Hello! Bumpo has arrived in Switzerland!
Similar to Cheep Cheep Lagoon, I was surprised at how much I liked Daisy Hills, considering how it, and Seven's Mushroom Cup in general, are generally seen as pretty forgettable. Maybe it's just because I find gliding in this game really fun, way more so than in 8. Driving up this mountain and gliding back down into town just has a charm that really does it for me. And it matches perfectly with the setting of the Eastern Alps. I love the feel of the quaint mountain town, and not covering it in snow makes the track feel a lot more unique compared to other mountain settings in the series. There are some good trick opportunities off of logs in the fountain, and an extra glider path that I didn't even know existed until I was looking at footage for this video. Yeah, I actually really like this one, and would consider it to be pretty underrated. It's not gonna blow anyone's mind, but its lovely vibes and solid layout make it an all-around really solid track.
You know what's there? Waiting. Beyond that beach. Immortality!
Cheep Cheep Beach is a cozy course that I find really hard to dislike. The layout and theme may be simple, much like the 2 courses that came right before it, but unlike those 2 courses, this one's simplicity is actually working in its benefit, as the layout, theme, and music come together to make something really charming and enjoyable. I enjoy the terrain variety, driving on the beaches and cutting corners through the water, and the turns in the jungle towards the end. The ramps do feel like a weird inclusion in a game without a trick system, but whatever. And even if it obviously looks better in 8, the color palette in the original is still very nice on the eyes. This is a good example of what a Mushroom Cup course should be. Something that's simple, but with just enough to it to keep the player engaged. A really good time all around. Also, why do all the beach courses on this list have giant rocks that look like penises?
We'll have to start from square one. Or should I say, circle one.
Baby Park is undoubtedly one of the most divisive Mario Kart courses of all time, especially with the ways it's been adapted into different games over the years. I've gotten acquainted with this track through its Mario Kart 8 version, which I go back and forth on a lot in terms of how I feel about it. But that is not the version we're ranking. Instead, we're dealing with the GameCube original. And after playing this for the first time, holy shit, this is way better than the 8 version. It's the perfect length, perfect size.
What do you mean by that?
And the looseness of Double Dash's controls, paired with the franticness of the items, make for an absolutely delightful time. It's a course and a concept that feels so uniquely Double Dash and GameCube, which is why I don't think its charm was quite replicated by any other version of the course. Except for maybe the Mario Kart Wii mods that have this as a remake. Either way, the original is something special, and I'll definitely be revisiting it more and more in the future.
Super jumps, yeah!
Believe it or not, there is still an SNES course we've yet to get to on this list. I know that sounds crazy, but after tallying up my thoughts on all these courses, I found that Mario Circuit 2 was one of the ones that I liked the most. And I actually hated this course for a while, mainly because I could not get the hang of Super Mario Kart's controls. But once I got not good, but slightly less bad at the game, I started to appreciate this course for its fun layout with turns that are just the right amount of bendy, unlike the donut planes. This is in addition to well-placed obstacles, where it's pretty fun to weave around and in between the pipes on the side of the road. But of course, you also have the
super jumps, yeah! Yeah!
While it's not crazy by modern standards, it's pretty exciting for something in this game, and caps off a really strong track. It far and away has the least going on theme-wise out of anything in the top 10, and maybe it would have ranked higher if it wasn't just another Mario Circuit, but it makes the most out of what it has, and is easily one of the standout courses in this game. Now this is more like it. After 3 courses that I don't think anyone really cares about, Mario Kart 8 ended off its Mushroom Cup with a bang, delivering an incredibly solid course in the form of Thwomp Ruins. I will say this course might have been held back a bit by being placed this early in the game. It's not quite as ambitious or cool as some of the other tracks in the base game of 8, but I don't really see that as too much of a setback considering just how strong the theme is and how they perfectly executed on it here. I love the aesthetic of these ancient ruins, and especially how the course being high in the sky gives it a treacherous treacherous feel. It's still not the most difficult or complex course out there, but the layout is pretty fun, especially with the gliders in the middle section and right before the finish line. I guess the wall driving feels a little bit like a last-minute addition, and maybe the course could have been even better if it had more thwomps, considering that thwomps are epic. But as is, it's a really good track that I always have a fun time on, and an excellent capper to a not-so-excellent cup. For some bizarre, unexplainable reason, I've gotten addicted to GBA Bowser Castle 1. I must have played this at least 100 times by now, and I keep coming back to it. Partially because it's a fun way to procrastinate on all the other videos I need to make, but also because of how solid of a course this is in its own right. It's a great evolution of the SNES Bowser Castles, largely keeping the same vibes and aesthetics, but providing a massive upgrade in terms of the layout. It's so much more satisfying to make these turns, partially because this is just a more fun game, but also because of how much more frequent they are. Yet not too frequent. The layout is exactly what I would want out of a flat kart racer, and the thwomps are solid obstacles. And of course, the music absolutely slaps, but that goes for all the GBA Bowser Castles. Yeah, I don't know why, but for some bizarre reason, I kinda love this one. Much like in my NSMB DS ranking, sometimes the reason for me ranking something so high is as simple as, it's fun and I like it. And Bowser Castle 1 definitely fits that bill. Now if you'll excuse me, I'm gonna go play it a dozen more times. Shy Guy Bazaar is a great showcase as to why simplicity in terms of layout doesn't always have to equate to simplicity in terms of theme. The atmosphere here is so cool, with a wonderfully realized Arabian Nights aesthetic, literally. Visually, I think it benefits greatly from taking place at night, as the blues of the sky and the oranges of the road and bazaar really pop in a way that a brighter setting wouldn't have allowed them to. That's probably why I might prefer this 3DS version over the Mario Kart World version. And even if the track layout generally isn't the craziest, it makes up for that by having ample trick opportunities, fun obstacles like the jars, and a neat gliding section towards the end. The theme is still doing a lot of the heavy lifting, but that theme is so cool and unique that it greatly elevates what could have been a pretty standard desert track. A really strong course that I always enjoy, and puts me in the mood to watch that classic Disney movie, you know the one, Strange World.
But a peach cannot defeat Tai Lung.
I think it's impossible not to be charmed by Peach Beach. I can't quite describe it, but much like Baby Park, this is a course with an atmosphere that feels so uniquely GameCube, which is why I think I enjoy this version in particular. I mean, the Mario Kart World version is basically a different course anyway, so they aren't really comparable. There's just so many nice little details that make for a very fun and even dynamic course. From the rising and falling tides, to the vibrant colors, to the cataquacks, to the penis rock, yes I am bisexual. It's such an easy track to love. Maybe not the most insane layout-wise, but an absolute standout in terms of sheer vibes.
What's around the river bend?
After years of playing the Booster Course Pass version, a course that I do enjoy by the way, I was surprised to go back and see just how great the original Riverside Park is. It's obviously not as impressive as it is in 8, but whereas that game frankly has loads of more interesting courses, on the GBA it's a real standout. Not only is the theme the most unique out of all the Mushroom Cup tracks in this game, but the layout is near perfect. A good number of curves and bends, yet not too many to the point where it feels excessive. They all serve to make a track that controls like a dream in this game. That 270-degree turn towards the end is as satisfying as it gets. Oddly enough, this track kinda feels like the spiritual successor to SNES Mario Circuit 2. Not just because it has two big jumps which are a lot of fun, but also because they both test your skills with these admittedly dated control schemes in a way that's immensely satisfying. An absolute banger, and one of the best courses to come out of Super Circuit.
Oh yeah, Mario, woohoo! My mushrooms now, mega, if you know what I mean. So fuck it.
Oh yeah, now this is the shit. I don't think I know a single person who doesn't like Mushroom Gorge, and there's a very good reason for that. Not only is it impossible not to be charmed by, but it provides an immensely satisfying layout and introduced the best game mechanic of all time to Mario Kart, bouncing. Anyone who watched my Tropical Freeze and NSMB DS rankings know how much of a sucker I am for this shit, and Mario Kart Wii executes on it brilliantly. Bouncing on mushrooms on this course has never felt as good as it does in the Wii version. Maybe it's because of that tantalizing boing sound that's far more pronounced here than it is in the remix. Either way, nothing can quite compare to the serotonin I get from performing tricks off these bad boys, especially in the cave section. But the layout in general is just really damn strong, striking a perfect balance between simple and engaging. I'm always excited to replay this one, a true banger that has endured and will endure as a classic for generations.
Donkey Kong. Mario's first game hasn't aged well, but even so, it's worth trying at least once.
I distinctly remember watching the Nintendo Switch 2 Direct in the middle of my high school physics class. And as soon as the Mario Kart World trailer came on and they showed off DK Spaceport, I knew this track would be a banger. And after playing it, yup, it is. Taking the arcade Donkey Kong and turning it into a Mario Kart course is such a novel concept. It doesn't seem like it would be that exciting at first, and has the potential to come across as archaic, much like Excitebike Arena for me. But it really runs wild with this tribute, making for an exciting blast of a course. Despite the layout just consisting of long straightaways and simple turns, it's still super fun because of how great of a demonstration for this game's new mechanics it is. The wall driving, the rail grinding, and the super satisfying jumps in the air you can take over the barrels. It feels unbelievably good with the physics of Mario Kart World, in a way that I don't think it would in Mario Kart 8. And of course, you got the giant robotic Donkey Kong, making for an awesome set piece as you scale the tower, avoid his giant barrels, and drive under his penis and glide into the sunset. This is exactly the kind of course I would want out of a next-gen Mario Kart. Something that still makes for a fun race, while also putting its own twist onto what a course can be. Easily one of my favorite tracks in the world, and I'll never forgive Psylocke Hawk for trashing it.
There's a weird dichotomy to my Wii.
Ever since I first played it in the waiting room of the orthodontist's office before getting my teeth pulled, I knew Toad's Factory was gonna take the cake. I mean, not really, since that implies I've been planning this list for years, but whatever. This is the shining example of how to make a simple, yet immensely engaging and fun track that can be equally enjoyed by both casual and hardcore players. There's a reason that this Mushroom Cup track not only persists as one of the best tracks in this game, but possibly one of the best tracks in the series. The turns, satisfying. The obstacles, creative and fun to dodge. The setting, so cool and unique, unlike anything else in the series up until World. It's insane how much they get out of this theme, while making it all feel cohesive and part of one whole experience. But the best part has to be the music. Manic as all hell and so exciting. Easily one of my go-to tracks to use in angry rant videos. It all comes together to make an unforgettable track, one that may not seem special at first until you play it and realize just how perfectly realized the concept is. An absolute classic and an easy pick for the best track in Mushroom Cup history. Alright, now that we've gotten the courses out of the way, time to rank all the cups. This will be numerically based on the average ranking of each course in a specific cup, just to keep things as straightforward as possible. At number 9 is, fittingly, the Mushroom Cup of my least favorite Mario Kart game, Mario Kart 64. This shouldn't come as a surprise to anyone, with my favorite course in this cup, Koopa Troopa Beach, just being kinda good. And the other 3 courses are so bland that they make this an absurdly boring selection to start out the game with. At number 8 is the Super Mario Kart Mushroom Cup. With my least favorite course of the entire lot in this lineup, this selection didn't have much of a fighting chance. The other 4 tracks aren't terrible. In fact, I find their simple design to be charming compared to the N64 tracks, and we do have the gem that is Mario Circuit 2. But otherwise, there's nothing too special here. At number 7 is the Mario Kart 8 Mushroom Cup. I was initially surprised to tally up the ranking and see how low this game placed, but then I looked back at the courses and yeah. The first 3 are the very definition of meh, not really inspiring much enthusiasm in me whenever I play on them. And while Thwomp Ruins is great and the easy standout, that single course isn't enough to elevate the overall selection much higher. Too little too late, I'm afraid. At number 6 is the DS Mushroom Cup. Talk about a mixed bag, with 2 of the simplest tracks in the history of mankind, both of which placed in my bottom 4. And then 2 really solid tracks that are Mario Kart classics. But even then, Cheep Cheep Beach and Luigi's Mansion aren't incredible in my eyes, certainly not good enough to trudge through the monotony of Figure 8 Circuit and Yoshi Falls to get to them. How tragic. At number 5 is the Mario Kart 7 Mushroom Cup. I often see this ranked as the worst Mushroom Cup in the series, which I don't really get. I think all these tracks do their job really well and show off the fun new mechanics of the game. Shy Guy Bazaar is the only one of the lot I would call truly great, but I still decently enjoy myself on the others as well. A pretty solid selection overall. At number 4 is the Mario Kart World Mushroom Cup. Pretty much the standard definition of good, with fun solid tracks that just aren't crazy by the standards of this game. Mario Bros. Circuit and Crown City are enjoyable times, DK Spaceport is a true masterpiece, and while it's not a favorite of mine, it is possible to have some fun on Whistletop Summit. Not a mind-blowing cup, but a good introduction to the game and the console. Number 3 is the Mario Kart Super Circuit Mushroom Cup. I'm gonna sound like a crazy person for this ranking since these are obviously way more basic and simple than the Switch 2 tracks, but I do find this lineup to be a more solid batch overall. Peach Circuit is the only one I would call even a little subpar, and even that's more forgivable since it's the first track. Otherwise, Shy Guy Beach is fun, and Riverside Park and Bouncer Castle 1 are rock solid courses that I always enjoy going back to. This game is fun, you guys are just mean. At number 2 is the Double Dash Mushroom Cup. A perfect introduction to the wonderful chaos of the game, especially when it comes to Baby Park and Peach Beach. Luigi Circuit is solid as well, and even Dry Desert is kinda sorta fun. It's a very good selection to start the game with, even if it doesn't quite compare to number 1, the Wii Mushroom Cup. Easily my favorite one in the series, with Luigi Circuit and Moo Moo Meadows being really solid starter tracks. And of course, Mushroom Gorge and Toad's Factory being untouchable classics that permanently raise the bar for what a Mushroom Cup track can be. Absolutely iconic, and a Mushroom Cup that's gonna be near impossible to top. But with that said, I think I've had enough mushrooms for now. Hope you enjoyed this ranking though, and let me know if I should rank the other cups too. Maybe I'll rank every Flower Cup track, or every Banana Cup track, or every Propeller Cup track, because that one includes Sky High Sundae. But for now, I'm going back to KO the Kangaroo 2022, because that game is peak cinema. See you guys in the next one.
My life be like